Net Control would like me to work you here and get you a couple of contacts. We're a work all safe and awards type of a net. If you ever want to join.
Okay, I promised everyone that after I had a little time working with the FT-710 radio and the D90, I'm sorry, M-90D mic, that I'd do a review of them. And so this is the review. I'm really coming to love this radio. Um, the Yaesu FT-710, in my opinion, is basically an FTDX10 miniaturized down some. Um, One difference is it's not a hybrid radio; it's a true SDR. It's on this, design, say around the type of radio when you think of a 7300 ICOM. It's true SDR. There's no super heterodyne analog front end or anything on it. It's pretty well comes in off the antenna, converted, analog to digital converters, and it's all processed internally software wise. Using the radio so far, I mean, I've played with it FT10DX, or I'm sorry, FTDX10. I've played with a lot of ham radios over the years, and I've had quite a few. And I have to say, this is the best receiver I've worked with. I think it's, I don't know that it's better than a FTDX10. If you look at the Sherwood ratings, it's very close, but not better. What I will say is that comparing the two, in my opinion, the FT-710 comes in when you want something smaller, would be easier to go portable with. Maybe you want to go do POTA or SOTA, or probably too big for SOTA, but POTA, good radio for that, in my opinion. It has a few bells and whistles. It doesn't. It's missing a few bells and whistles that the FTDX10 has, but in my opinion, nothing that I cared about. Such as one is the CW decoder. I don't need a CW decoder. If you want a CW decoder, then that kind of means you lean towards the FTDX10. But other than that, the receiver on these, I couldn't tell the difference between them. They're both phenomenal receivers. The audio on the FT-710, I think, is a little better with the extra speaker. I think it gives it a little bit of an edge. It has a little bit rounder, softer tone, in my opinion, a little easier to listen to. But that's just speaker. If you have an external speaker on your FTDX10, you're going to have the same effect. There's a few things that you lose going to the FT-710, but not much. When you consider, when I bought this radio, there was a $500 difference between the FT-710 and the FTDX10. The $500 difference absolutely, in my opinion, wasn't worth it for what I was going to get. I like the size of this radio. Another thing I like is I think the buttons are laid out a little better for big fingers like mine. It's not a big deal. Like everybody says, you can get used to and kind of adjust. But I found that the buttons on the FTDX10 around here tended to make me move the frequency. And even though you could tighten up, just as you can here, you could tighten up the resistance to the knob, it still was somewhat of an issue. This radio, you don't run into that. The buttons are along here, and they've moved some of them up to the top up here. The layout works well. I'm very happy with that. As far as user interface, I'll be truthful, and that is that even though I haven't owned one, I have played with one, the ICOM 7300 has a better menu layout. But it's just not that big a deal because, I mean, even though you might use the menus quite often, once you get used to these, the 710 has, the menus are very, very simple, and I can show you that. The main menus are all under your function button. Push your function button, you get your main menus, and pretty well everything's there. You don't have a lot of layered menus to deal with. I like the ability to use the mouse. I have a wireless mouse on mine. As you see the cursor up there, I'm using a wireless mouse to run it. Choosing a menu means that once you choose it, the function button then controls that. Okay, that's what. See, I have my rig limited to 5 to 15 watts, and that's because of my amp. I don't want to overpower my amp, and that's all I need to drive my amp. Using the mouse, I don't even have to reach up and hit the function button. If I do a right click anywhere on the screen, I get those menus. So this becomes very easy to deal with. You've got some radio setting menus in here. If I go into mode SSB, you can see the settings you have for different receive frequency cutoffs and for each different mode. If I back up and go into, say, operation settings, here's my general. I can set up things like how loud the beep is on the radio, to timings, to the buttons on the mic, what they control. You have your receive DSP that allows you to adjust, everything from how wide the notch filter is to, your APF settings. Your transmit audio is where you go in and you're going to deal with things like your parametric equalization for both without voice processing and with voice processing. Your general is where you can set up things like you can see on HF. I have mine set to max out at 15 watts. I don't want to overdrive my amp. Very easy to change if I want to go barefoot. No problem to switch that up very easily. All your Vox settings, enabling emergency frequency transmit, whether your meter is if I click here, it's going to be peak or average, whichever one I want. Tuning, you control how fast your knob, what the steps of the knob is, how many steps per revolution of the knob, the VFO knob. All of these things are in here. You've got your channel step. That is whatever you set this to. That's what the DSP knob down here, they call it the step/DSP. This lets you step, and you can jump in 1 kilohertz, or you can set that to what you want, and that's just a way to jump fixed amounts very quickly. I'll show that in just a second. So screen dim, contrast, colors for your waterfall, mic gain, whether the mic EQ's on, processor level, monitor on or off, and the level, CW speed for your keyer and your CW pitch. This AES down here controls the blend between the main the external speaker and the main speaker on the top, and you can adjust that to get the sound you like. Most people are running that much higher than that. I find 30% for me on the 1000 hertz crossover works real well for me. I like the sound of that. You've got your messaging and recording play settings in here. You've got your display settings, and here you can set up, how long your call displays on boot up, the pop-ups, how fast they go away, and how long till your screensaver kicks in, and things about the scope, and VFO indicator colors. That's these lights around here. See, blue right now on mine means I'm on VFO A. If I go to VFO B, they turn green. Okay. It also bails you out of the menu if you switch. So the menus are fairly easy to use. I can't say they're bad, but I will say that I think the 7300 is a little better on the menu, but it's just not that big a deal in reality. From the screen here, I've got all these buttons that I can change things from. For example, I can push the step button, and I've got the ability to control the DSP. I can do a shift, a width, notch, contour. Forgot I had my shift on actually. I can access that also just by clicking right here. And that brings it up, and I can control it with the mouse. Attenuation, I can click here with the mouse. I can click on 18 dB or 12 dB or 6 dB or turn it off. My preamps here, I can use IPO, amp 1, or amp 2, depending on the band you're on. Obviously, on your lower frequencies, you probably want to go to IPO without an amp. Digital notch filter you can turn on and off from here. AGC you can control. You have the options of off, auto, fast, mid, and slow. I've been running auto. I don't find that I need to do anything with that. Again, I can bring these up by clicking here. I can tune the radio from the mouse if I want to by clicking right here. It does kilohertz. Rolling the wheel on the mouse gets me kilohertz. And clicking here will change megahertz. Clicking here gives me the keypad to directly enter a frequency if I want. All of these things you can do too from the radio. For example, I can click here and turn the VFO knob, do the same thing. There's a lot. You don't have to have a mouse. It's just very nice. It's a nice interface. Now, I promised there was some things I would give both positive and negatives. One thing that I wish they would have done on the interface is I have yet to find a way, and this may be me, maybe I haven't found it, a way to change bands from the mouse up here. It would be very nice to be able to do that. Currently, I hit the band button, I get a choice, and I can either use the touchscreen or the mouse here to change bands. But I can't seem to bring that up from the screen with the mouse. That would be a nice feature for them to add into the interface. I think that's missing. Up here, it always displays what you're on. What I mean by what you're on is, right now, currently, we're set to change the RF power if we turn the function key. If I click on mouse gain, mic gain, it comes up to mic gain, and now if I turn, I'm controlling mic gain. So I find this to be nice. You always know what you're going to get if you turn the function. If you forget what you've put yourself on, right here always tells you that. Of course, VFO-A, VFO-B's here. You've got split functionality with one button up here. If I hit this, I'm now split. It tells you up here what you're going to receive on or what you're going to transmit on. It lights up and it's clear that you're on split. Pushing split again takes you out. All of these things I like. You've got an arrow button here. If you notice my filter band right here, if I hit narrow, it'll narrow. In the menu, you adjust how much you want it to narrow when you do that. That works well. Your DNR is right here. You'll see it light up, and right up here, if you look, you'll see it come on and off to tell me I'm turned on digital noise reduction. If I hold digital noise reduction, I find out what level I'm on. And turning function button, or knob, I should say, lets me pick one of 15 different algorithms. It's not levels. A lot of people keep saying, I've turned up the level. It says level, and I find that interesting because it's not really a level. It's an algorithm. But what they've done is they've put them in order where they're more and more aggressive. So I guess you could consider it a level. It's really not a level. You'll notice that they sound different as you change them because it's using a different algorithm. Me, myself, I typically run somewhere around 5. Going more aggressive if it's noisy can help. You do get to a point where you get a little bit of audio distortion at some point, as you do with all of it if you crank it up too high. But sometimes you're better off to get rid of the noise and live with a little bit of distortion when you're trying to get that weak signal coming through the noise. Sometimes you've got a stronger signal and you don't want to do that. Backing it off gives you better sounding audio and still keeps most of the noise taken out. So it's very, very friendly, very, very useful. Let me see if I can bring up the audio here. Find a station. That mouse, let's run down to find. There's digital. I told you I'd show you the step button. See the step button? When I turn the step button, I'm going up 1 kilohertz at a time.
8 minutes for that will be starting, okay?
Okay, we've got a net starting up. I'm hoping you guys can hear some of the audio.
FTDX November 4 Whiskey Foxtrot uniform.
If you can hear that, hopefully it's coming through clear.
CQDX, CQ20 Delta X-ray. This is November 4 Whiskey Foxtrot uniform, North Carolina. Norway 4, Washington, Florida, United. Calling CQDX and listening for a call.
Now, that audio is perfectly clear. Now, if I want to take my RF gain and bring it up a little,
CQ,
get rid of the noise.
CQ Delta X-ray, CQ20DX. This Yaesu QDX listening for call.
So hopefully you can hear this audio and hear how clear the audio is and how clean the signal is. The display here, of course, has all the features. I've got multi on now. If I turn multi off, we go to just the waterfall. It does, of course, the 3D waterfall. Not my thing. I'm sure there's people that love it. I find it really, to me, it's harder to tell what I'm looking at, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. Some people are going to love it. So I like to stay with 3D waterfall off. When the 3D waterfalls, either way, when you turn multi on, you get the oscilloscope and the FFT feature here. You can expand, get rid of your settings, disappear up here. It gives you a little more screen space if that's your thing. Here's what it looks like if you don't have multi on. You get quite a large waterfall. Of course, span lets you choose the width of what you're viewing on your scope. And of course you have multiple speeds for the scrolling of the scope. You can click here and control the attenuation here, click here and control the attenuation and the time period. You can show longer periods on your oscilloscope here. There's just so many settings on this thing, it's unbelievable. The transmit, the M-90D microphone, I like it. It has a switch on the bottom. Maybe you can see here, a low cut switch. And now that I've got my audio set to where I like it, one of the things I like is I can turn on the low cut when I'm trying to reach that DX station and break through a pileup, and it takes a little bit of the lows out and goes from a beautiful rag chewing audio, gives it just a little more punch, a little bit more high end, a little less low end. So with one switch, I can kind of tailor my voice that way. Of course, everybody's voice is different, but one of the things I want to show is using the MD90D mic. I want to show the settings I'm using, because when I was going to set this up, I was looking and I just could not find anyone showing their settings. And the few I found, they weren't with this mic, and they weren't really saying this is my settings. They were more talking about the different settings. But the audio settings for my transmit audio, here's what I'm using. Okay, I'm going to go through so and let everybody kind of freeze the frame. And if you want to use this as kind of a basic setup, if you're using this mic especially, and of course your voice will be different, you might want to tailor it a little more. This is what I'm using. I'm using mid for my release time, which is the default. The parametrics for without the processor are 200 hertz for the first one on level 2 with a bandwidth of 2. EQ 2 on without the processor is 900 hertz, level 4, bandwidth 2. Parametrics for EQ3 on without processor is 2700, EQ level 10, bandwidth 1. And then we get into the EQs having to do with the parametrics having to do with the processor turn on. And I do run processor all the time. I find this mic needs a lot of mic gain. You probably noticed mine's on 100. And then the parametrics I've set up are 200 hertz for EQ1, level 0, bandwidth 2. This mic has a lot of bass to it, so I'm knocking it down. Or I shouldn't say I'm knocking it down, because I'm on 0, so what I'm doing is I'm not emphasizing it. I'm not knocking it down, I'm not emphasizing it. Then we get into EQ bandwidth, which is EQ2, frequency of 900, level of 4, bandwidth of 2. 3 is 2400 hertz, EQ3, levels 10, bandwidth 1. I'm boosting 2400 hertz. That's the part of your voice where you're going to, people are going to understand what you're saying clearly. These come from a lot of work with my buddies on 80 meters tuning. And ever since we've got to this point, I've had nothing but absolute every contact practically, they bring up how good my audio is. So I think it's a good setting for my voice. We'll put you in the ballpark and let you tweak it for you. Transmit for general, that's where you set your limits to your power, and these settings really won't affect your audio, nor will the tuning. Now in receive, the contour level I turned down to 5 and left everything else the default. This is for receive. General, not much in here that I needed to mess with. One thing that I did want to make sure I covered, if I can find it, let's see, where is that at? One thing you definitely want to make sure that you get set back here. One thing you want to make sure you set is right here. Under Mode SSB in the radio settings, your transmit bandpass filter selection, I'm running 100 to 2900 hertz. Make sure you set that and then set your parametric settings. This will give you a 2800 hertz bandwidth on your transmit, which is going to give you good fidelity without being over wide. So hopefully, hopefully this will help you. In concluding, I can't say anything bad about the radio, really. There's so little. There's a few interface things, like I said, a few things I'd like to be able to do with the mouse. The memories on it has a quick memory system along with a normal memory system that works fine. I've played with the CW a little bit, although I'm not a CW guy. I'm learning, I'm training. And that seems to be very easy to set up. Works very, very well. So overall, I'm very, very happy with the radio. I think I made a good choice. Going to be interested later this coming year to maybe take this thing on the road, do a little bit of on-the-road POTA work. So hopefully I'll hear some of you on the bands and be able to pick you up. So again, fantastic audio, love the filtering, love the DSP. Just really enjoy the radio. I wish there was more that I could say bad so that you guys would feel that I was giving it a fair comparison. But the truth is, there's just not that much bad to really speak about. Everything on the radio seems to work very, very well. It did not take me long to learn it. If you're willing to get in the book, read a little bit, and start playing with it, in a couple days, you can get very comfortable with this radio. So hopefully this helps you out. Thank you for tuning in and listening to what I had to say. Hopefully it helps you in some way. If it did, please like the video. If you'd like to continue to get content and help our little channel grow, you change your mind, you don't want to be subscribed later, you feel our content's not for you, then it costs nothing to unsubscribe. So thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next video.